Alright guys, I'm back, and this video is following the one I just did, which I haven't named yet. I just saved it. So, I use Windows Movie Maker. I think that's, yeah, there it is. There. Yeah, I use Windows Movie Maker. I don't have anything fancy. So this is why my movies aren't particularly great. I use a Logitech webcam. It's not high quality or anything of that nature. So, but I'm digging into shattering the myths of Darwinism. Like I've stated in earlier videos, for those of you who are going to attack Richard Milton and call him a creationist, propagandist, or things like that, he's religious of no kind. None whatsoever. He's simply calling into question the theory of evolution, which I have problems calling it a theory, but we won't get into that today. Today we are going to get into radiometric dating. A common form of radiometric dating, probably the most common, at least according to my sources. If my sources are wrong, I apologize, but it is a form of a dating method, which is, if it was, how do I put this? If it was done, I guess there's really no way to say this right. If it was done properly, we wouldn't be having problems with it. It uses probably one of the most constant, what is it, how does he puts this? One of the best way, or one of the most, if we're going to date something, we have to use a process that is constant. And one of the most constant processes on our planet is the decay of radioactive decay, the decay of radioactive elements. One of which is lead-206. Lead is normally, its atomic count is normally 204. The decay product of uranium-238 is lead-206, which is 2 higher neutron count, if I'm not mistaken. So in order to date the rocks, is we find out the half-life of lead-206. We find out how much is, how much was, how much is. We find out how much it's decayed, and we can find out how old something is. The estimated half-life of lead-206, the product of uranium-238, is 4.5 billion years. So that's approximately 100 million years less than what evolutionists believe how old the Earth is. So, that's just really simple right there. As I stated in an earlier video, there are other lead-207 is also produced by uranium, and lead-208 from thorium, which is a different element, and we will get into that in a moment. Basically, what's being called into question here by there's a man by the last name of Cook whose first name has been lost in my shuffle. I don't have him marked, but he wrote a book called Prehistory and Earth Models, where he calls this into question, and Mr. Milton here is going to use him as a source. What he says basically is that radiogenic lead is used to date the rocks, and that a process that can cause lead-206 to become lead-207 or 208 is called the capture of free neutrons, which occur through fission. Now, most people would say, you know, oh, that's no big deal. You know, you have to fuse neutrons into this lead, and so that's definitely not a problem. Well, there's a problem with what you're saying there. Is when we date the rocks based off of the amount of lead-206, or we did do lead-208. You don't do both, because if you did both, you'd get something totally wrong, because if there was thorium in there and there was uranium in there, you'd have no way of telling how much of which was in there, just by the byproducts. Now, so you do one and you do the other, and you can't get a rough estimate out of either of them, because one's gotten larger. The thorium would have gotten larger if this neutron capture was occurring. The 208 would be getting, or there would be more 208 and less of 206, so it would look much older in the sense of 206 than it actually is. And a lot of people would probably say, well, the fissure doesn't actually happen. Well, actually, free neutrons are captured pretty well atomic particles with enough energy to transmute common lead into so-called radiogenic lead, where through such a source of free neutrons can be found. The answer is in radioactive ore deposits such as uranium, where they occur through spontaneous fission. In the very ore, the radioactive uranium ore, that's decaying and producing this lead, spontaneous fission occurs. So that is why you occasionally get lead-207 from the uranium deposits. So it becomes nearly impossible to date these things because all it takes is lead-206 be converted into 207, and 207 into 208, and now you have no idea how old these rocks are. They could have had thorium in it, and now you have to go in between the two, or it could have had no thorium in it whatsoever. None. And now you have a completely messed up process, and you can't date based off of the 206 because a lot of it that was there is missing, and it's not due to decay. So you can't really use it. It leans in the direction of an old Earth. It looks like it's decaying much faster, or it looks like a lot more of it has decayed than actually has. So basically, that's what I'm calling into question. A lot of other... Let's see, where is this? He basically tries to... he calls into... Melvin Cook, that's the gentleman's name. Is that... He's basically what he's asserting is that we base the dating of these rocks, and I've heard creationist arguments that are really stupid. The circular argument that says the rocks date the fossils date the rocks. I've used this argument before. I repent. I repent of my usage of this argument. It does happen, but not nearly on the scale that creationists try and push it off on. So I will give us a little bit of the benefit of the doubt in that sense. But radiometric dating, or radiogenic dating, is used to find the age of these rocks. And this is not the only... Let's see. Like radiogenic argon dating has much similar problem with it. Is you're looking at something, and yes, radioactive decay is very constant. I'm not disputing that at all. What I'm saying is that it has to be a closed system. And there really is no such thing as a closed system in these instances, because the very environment where these things are happening, they're subject to change. Your example right here is the lead. In the very deposits that uranium-238 exists in, causes spontaneous neutron fission, making your lead get an extra neutron, and all it takes is to get some 208 in there, and you have no idea what you're doing anymore. You can't tell. And I'm sorry, but you can't... I honestly can say that uranium to lead dating needs to be thrown out. Those dates are invalid. You cannot use them whatsoever. Unless you've got nothing but 206. Even 207 I would call into question, because it's showing that the fission is occurring and that problems are happening. And to be completely honest, if this is happening, I guarantee you that every single, and I would call into question all of them, all of these dates have probably had this problem. Because I don't honestly believe, and this is a faith thing, I put my trust into these sources to say that spontaneous fission I don't think means from time to time. No, this is radioactive material that causes spontaneous things to happen where fission can occur on a grandiose scale, or on a very minuscule scale. And it can cause all sorts of problems, and you can't factor that in because you don't know. You weren't there. You haven't been staring at this stuff since the day it started to decay. So I call into question radiometric dating in that sense. Argon-40 I can get into later. I probably won't, just because I think this in and of itself shows the problem with these dating methods. This is far from the only one. Carbon-14 dating has been shown to have tons and tons of problems with it. Nobody even uses those dates anymore to try and pull anything. And if anybody out there tries to pull that on me, I will be happy to use my sources to show you how terrible Carbon-14 dating method is. I even have atheist sources and evolutionist sources that say it's a terrible dating method. So I call into question the dating methods, and anybody who would like to refute my uranium-238 to lead-206, feel free. Comments, PMs, video responses would be nice. I have 0 as of right now. The person who makes my first video response, I'd be extremely excited. So I'm testing out going over 10 minutes to see how far I can go. This is 9 megabytes, so I'm gonna chop it off here. But that's really my video. I'm calling the dates into question. Call me into question if you feel like it. I'll probably make another one before I hit the hay tonight. So peace and God bless. But you'll see me in a few minutes anyway.